So I've been receiving quite a lot of questions in my mails about this, and it is about why do you practice celibacy in angels and working magic. And I believe that you have three different things that are very closely related. Many puts them together as one thing, and that is spirituality, sensuality, and sexuality. But for me, they are completely different things. But in the beginning, they can feel like very similar and in a similar fashion. And since all rituals beforehand, it's usually, since I practiced mainly Enochian and Abramelin, so it's been that 10 days fasting and celibacy. And in the old books, since I follow them, celibacy means that there is no touching, not by yourself or anybody. Celibacy is what it says. And when being young, it is truly hard to go through that 10 days of celibacy, especially if you have fallen in love. But it all has a very clear point. Since you learn to feel the difference between sensuality, sexuality and spirituality. And how can and many says that in prophecy and spirituality you have the stages of ecstasy and they combine that with sexuality, but not so in angelical magic. And they say that even the prophets, and when they were touched by the Holy Spirit, the Christians, that they run around naked and did weird things. But there is still a difference there. And my own understanding of it is that I remember starting with practicing it, and it was so hard, since you feel like your whole body is charged with an urge. And you have yet not understood what it is, so it is tough. And then when you combine it with fasting, to really get that clarity, it is quite a struggle. But it has a very clear point, since you are actually learning to become strong, to know yourself, and to see through the very similar layers. And to learn to understand how your body works, how your heart, how your soul and how your mind can change. And you can learn about yourself by going into, instead of having one with the senses, you learn to separate them. And at the same time you have to meditate and pray and be focused and clear, and at the same time you are raging, let's say, with hormones and desire. And to be frank, it is painful. It is just like when all your nerves are on fire. And since this isn't a sexual thing, that means that even if you were to go out and have sex with your husband or somebody, that it still doesn't bring you the release, since it's in a spiritual form. So there is that fire burning within you, and at the same time you have to learn to calm that by simply being and focusing on the prayer. And so in many ways, if you're stuck in the magic with the angels, and also if you never seen or had any visuals, I can't visualize, as I'm always telling everyone, so I can't make up a story and see it happening before me. So when I see something, it always comes as a sudden flash, and I see something and sense something. But by fasting and obtaining celibacy, and that fasting and celibacy, it leads to a lot of sleepless nights in the first 10 days, until your body gets accustomed to those things. So you can't sleep, you don't eat, and then you're celibate. And since you step out of the world as well, that it is truly hard Since suddenly if you see, let's say that you're visiting somebody who is sick and they have a TV on and they have a TV showing some food or people having sex, and you suddenly react like a wolf nearly, since all the primitive emotions and it goes up. And that is in a way maybe that you could say that it is like what in yoga or other religions and practices that you learn, and Buddhism, that you learn to dwell deeper. And in a way you could say, if we look at it very simply, that this would be a Jewish and Christian practice. Then that angels exist in all cultures is a different thing, but to keep it simple. But there is something I truly love about this, and sometimes I do that celibacy. Well, actually, to be really honest, my sex drive disappeared when I was 40. It took a hike and has never returned. But there is that feeling of clarity and that connection your body and soul starts to get as you're working with your body towards spiritual ends together with your soul. And I feel that I find clarity and freedom and stability. So this might be a very different view from many others, but that is how I experienced it for more than 4 decades, close to 5 decades. And it still can be sometimes that you can feel like the senses of the sensuality and sexuality are very close, and also with spiritual fire. It is so similar. And I don't think that you can learn that other by trying. And you can practice it without doing Abramelin or Enochian. Just let's say that you start with 1 day without no eating, or at least 24 hours with no food, and complete celibacy, and trying to stay clear and focused and build up from there, since you will feel different in your body. And for me it takes about 3 days to adjust my body to that, and then everything becomes clearer and it isn't so difficult. So, and since sex magic is so popular now, especially within modern books, and they are used in the demonic and with genius spirits and so on, and other pagan parts and so on. But also in yoga and other Buddhist practices, they too have that celibacy. So it isn't just the Abrahamical faiths. If you truly want to ascend, you have to try it to learn to understand it. And so I can't say so much more, but it is like that sex magic that is so popular. It is actually that you're taking off your own life force and putting something into something, and that creates a hole in your soul that then can be taken over by something. And the rules about sex are not as black and white as many fundamentalists say. It is also about the spiritual aspects of that, for if you share your body with somebody else, you also share their demons. And by having one partner, and then if you go to another, you get their demons as well. So with every partner in the old tradition, you get connected to more and more other spirits that you have to battle. So it isn't just a sin in that simple way. It is a warning against that you can truly become possessed if you're having sex with somebody who is possessed. And you also if you love somebody, you make yourself vulnerable in your heart as well. And that's when the true attacks can come, if that is a wrong person. So I believe that the reasons for that is that when you have done this, at least once tried to, you get that clarity. And during that clarity you can ask the angels, will this be the right partner for me? And so on. So it concludes the daily life. If you just follow somebody home at the first instance since you feel they are hot, then you never will know. Since it starts off with just being so easy and you want everything at once. But if you take that step back, and if a man loves you, he's willing to wait even for years. So don't underestimate the male love. They are loyal too. Not everything is like in the tabloids. And usually a man's love goes deeper than a woman's. It is more deep if a man truly loves you. It isn't shallow in that way that it is just for having somebody to show off, as it's popularly put. But try it for yourself, and if you have any practices, and if you practice, let's say, yoga, and they have strict regulations as well. I know that some parts do, but I'm not so. And also in Buddhism and other traditions, that there is that to get clarity and to really become a master. There is those tests that you have to do with abstaining from the earthly pleasures. Since you won't have a body in the spiritual realm, so it is just like so that you go back to being the soul you were, in a way. And I think that is the most important lesson of all, that we learn to create, to connect to our Creator. And also feel the love and the purity that exists with our Creator. And I hope this inspires you and explains it, even with myself censoring the words here. But be inspired, and I know that it was very hard in the first years. But with age it became easier and easier. And many, at least in the old days, many started to practice Kabbalah first after 40. So this might be one of the reasons that it is easier when you are older. Let us put it that way. Have a magical, magical day and be inspired. I love you all. Bye for now.